Welcome back. The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa says it's studying the policy directive for a possible change in the law that would allow Starlink and similar telecommunications companies to operate in South Africa. Communications Minister Solly Malatsi has now formally gazetted a request for public comment. The request is the first step towards adopting the proposals. Under the draft proposal from the minister, Starlink and other services would be able to use other means to comply with the triple BEE legislation. The minister joins me now live for more on this. A very good evening to you, Minister, and thank you so much for your time. It's highly appreciated. Please just talk to us with regards to the rationale behind this particular amendment and why now.
Good evening, and thanks very much for this opportunity. And perhaps it's important to start even with the phrasing that a lot of the media is using, which is important to clarify. This is not an amendment. A policy direction basically seeks to achieve one thing, which is to clarify the introduction of equity equivalent investment programs in the ICT sector, particularly looking at the allocation or applications for licensing in the telecommunications space. Currently, we have a situation where in terms of the regulator, that being Icasa's regulations, do not align with the overall spirit of the ICT sector codes. And what the policy directive seeks to do is to get policy certainty and clarity, because you would know that equity equivalent programs are part of the legislated instrument for empowerment programs in the country. It is envisaged through the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act and has been applicable in other sectors of the economy. And even in the ICT space, there are companies that are currently operating in South Africa through that vehicle. And it's about ensuring that, one, we maximize through the instruments of the available legislation options of attracting international investment, but secondly, ensuring that there is parity in the application of legislation and regulations. So the intervention is to open up the space for optimally attracting this investment. And it's not about one company. Government does not make rules or regulations for a specific company. It does this to maximize new players getting into the market, to help achieve mainly the goals that government is pursuing. The GNU is very clear in its pursuit of attracting international investment as part of our approach towards achieving inclusive economic growth.
And are there any particular concerns that you may have with this process, Minister? I mean, for maybe some lay people who may not necessarily understand some of the thinking behind it, like you're saying, it's not just for one company, but what it has been looking as if it's though these adjustments are being made at a time when Starlink is looking to come into the country, not wanting to abide to the current ways of which the BEE status currently is. How would you respond to that, Minister?
Well, we began the work on the policy direction towards the end of last year, and the process aligned to that was whenever a policy direction ought to be issued, the intention has to be expressed formally, and it must be expressed to the regulator. In our case, the regulator is Icasa, and we did that because you are required to then give Icasa the right to submit its position on the proposed policy directive, which they did, and we took a thorough amount of time applying my mind to the observations that they had, and felt that there is still a need in our sector to clarify these aspects, because it is important, Katle, it is important to make this point that equity equivalent programs are applicable in other sectors. In fact, they are part of South Africa's empowerment laws. So this narrative that seeks to argue that somehow they are a departure to existing laws, it's incorrect. It's both factually and legislatively incorrect. So we are looking at ways as government that there are these instruments that make it possible for multinationals to invest in our country. And those instruments can then be applicable to everyone, because you can't make laws that are then applicable to, say, 10 players and then prejudice other players. That's not how government in its policy formulation would do. And this is what we're seeking to achieve in this. We want to enhance access to broadband connectivity, and we are looking at existing regulations and where the gaps are, and saying that their process, as it will unfold beyond the gazetting, it will go for public comment. And any South African who has views and want to express their views can submit those views in the public comments. We are obligated to then consider the submissions based on what they are contributing. And obviously, the final formulation of the policy directive has to be grounded on what the submissions are then saying.
All right, Minister, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening and just giving us some of that clarity. That's Minister in Communications, Solly Malatsi, speaking to us there.